Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blondin. This is the NHL edition of the podcast. We're raring to go on a hockey Saturday. Tons of action, back-to-back games going on left and right. Other sports action, MLS kicks off today. I'll be putting some cheddar on that one. Early morning English soccer, Spanish soccer, Italian soccer, Spain. It's just wild action. Everything's going on. I love it. Felt more excited than I have since we lost football after the Super Bowl. Eagles, Chiefs. It kind of had a dead period there. But what about the Four Nations? Oh my. We're going to talk about that a little bit before we dive into today's action. Yes, the podcast is going to post just before and after some puck drops. We'll go over the picks I had anyway and lead into the evening. Hopefully that helps you out and gets you ready for Saturday night, NHL style, hockey night in Canada or hockey night in US, whatever you want to do. The Overrated Experience can be followed on X at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. Instagram and Facebook by the name Overrated Experience. You can find us there as well. Drop us a comment, follow us, let us know you're listening, and give us your feedback on what content maybe you want to hear more of. But in the void of football, we got to move on, and the Four Nations has got us pumped. My initial reaction is obviously as a Canadian, we got the right result. That's exactly what we wanted. Canada retains the heavyweight championship of the top hockey nation, but watch out. I am a realistic hockey fan to know that the U.S. is growing, and the stars they have in this team are one day most likely going to surpass, especially in volume, that what we might be able to put together for Team Canada. It's the U.S. hockey program has gone nuts, and as much as the Four Nation was exciting, and I think what it has also done is parts of the U.S. that don't watch the game, that were caught up in the action of this tournament, I think will spur on another generation of Americans in areas you didn't think would be a hockey hotbed, and I think that will grow and grow. So that's, what did you think about the Four Nations, right? Initially, I thought, I don't know about this. Without Russia, is this a legit tournament? I don't know. But when it kicked off, and especially the Canada-US game on previous Saturday night, 3 fights in 9 seconds, that really set the tone. The intensity was there. The hate was on. Canada had the battle back, was smoking Finland in that last game, almost blew it a little later. But they did wind up winning that one to get to the final. And what we saw on Thursday, back and forth action, 2-2 going to overtime. Yes, I did have the over of 5.5, so that didn't help me in any way. But and it was, when Binnington, Jordan Binnington, who was getting hung out to dry for Canadians out there, that he wasn't the man, he wasn't up to par, he should be in net for Team Canada, came up absolutely huge, stood on his head in overtime, a couple saves on Austin Matthews. And then we get Mitch Marner, the pass to McDavid, wins it, and the first Four Nations champion is Team Canada. What a big game, what a big tournament, and especially for the growth of hockey in the U.S., there were people, on X, on ESPN, the coverage was way more than I have ever seen for an event. So the NHL has hit a home run on this one. They dropped the ball many times on the way the league is run, in my opinion. But in this one, they got it right. It worked out, especially a Canada-US final in the Four Nations. And we'll see how it goes. And what I love is it's Four Nations ended Thursday, and we got a huge slate back-to-back Saturday and Sunday in the NHL. And we're going to go over today's slate and go over some bets that I like and have already taken as these games have kicked off. I'm not going to touch on the soccer stuff because I got a few bets going there. I'm just going to check my score. I need wins here, guys. I need some wins. Let's go. I need some money in the pocket. It's not working out the way I want it to in some of these cases, but I'm hoping that turns around as the evening goes on. And here we go. So let's kick it off. So we're going to start in a game where puck drop has already taken place in Detroit. Minnesota Wild on the road in Detroit to take on the Red Wings. Red Wings, and I'm also looking at games where, what impact will players coming back from the Four Nations have? How healthy are they? How much energy are they going to put forth? So I have some different views on different things on that. But the Wild and Red Wings kicked off at 12:30 p.m. It's now 12:59 p.m. The Red Wings are up 1-0. My thought coming into this game is the Wild are on a roll. They're an elite team. They're an elite team that's moving forward. No, they don't have Kaprizov. He's an IR. But I looked at the Wild as a good value here, plus 110 money line. Like I said, they're down 1-0, but I expect that to turn around. Detroit is inconsistent to me. However, two prop bets, because I think hockey prop bets are starting to climb the chart of what people are finding value out of hockey betting. Because I'll tell you, it's friggin' hard to bet one side or the other because of all the parity that goes on in the NHL. So I looked at Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane, both to have 4 shots each in this game. DeBrincat, if he gets 4 shots or more, is plus 131. He actually scored the first Detroit goal here, so he at least has one. I haven't checked the rest of what's going on. Patrick Kane has been a go-to. He's been putting pucks on net recently, and I look at 4 shots on net from him, plus 160 of value. So at least if one of those hits, I'm making a profit on those 2 bets. So I like the Wild to eventually win this game, but I like DeBrincat and Kane to be factors in trying to put pucks in net, and all I need is 4 shots on net from each of them. So we'll see what happens there. 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. We have yet to see puck drop yet. However, I'll tell you what I've taken in this. I got to believe Connor McDavid will be in the lineup. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. How healthy is Connor McDavid? Is he ready to go? Is he going to be, get his regular 20-plus minutes of ice time? Or is he going to be kind of, ease back into the lineup, especially in a back-to-back situation? But most of these teams have to throw these guys in the lineup because playoff positioning is an absolute factor and time is running out. The Edmonton Oilers head into Philadelphia. I was thinking for a second there the value would be the Flyers, plus money. Edmonton's on the back-to-back, like I said. But here's where I'm going to go with this. I'm going to stay away from a side. 6.5 was kind of high, but I'm going to take the over 6.5. Maybe this is going to be a sloppy, 5-3 hockey game. Guys are tired, or maybe they're the majority of these guys did not play in the 4 Nations, and maybe they're energetic and goals will start going in. So I'm going to say over 6.5. And also, I think a very good value play at plus 100 was Leon Draisaitl, anytime goal scorer. So right now, plus money for Leon Draisaitl, especially if a limited action Connor McDavid is in the lineup. Draisaitl usually steps up, and he is the focal point of the offense. And power play after power play, he's going to be putting pucks on net. He's not afraid to do that, so I like that bet a lot. All right, let's move on to another 3 p.m. game. We got the Washington Capitals, who hold the number 1 record in the Eastern Conference, I believe still, but on the road to take on the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I'll tell you right now, the Pittsburgh Penguins are in desperation mode. I haven't got a read yet of how much Sidney Crosby is going to play in this game, but the Pittsburgh Penguins have to play desperate hockey. They are in a situation where they cannot drop any more points, and they need to go on a run. And here's my thought too. And there's 2 ways about it. I think Sidney Crosby has to use this short period of time before the trade deadline and really, really think of what he wants out of his career. Somebody I talked to made a great point that maybe his goal is to finish as a Penguin, maybe get a piece of the ownership of the franchise and stay a lifelong Penguin. That makes sense. If that's the pathway he wants to take in his career, if his sense at any point was to be a contender, to win another Stanley Cup, or at least be in contention to win another Stanley Cup, being in Pittsburgh is not the place to be, guys. Let's be honest with yourself. And you're 37 years old, and if you're made available, there are teams out there, whether it be the Avalanche, whether or not be the Avalanche, that are going to be knocking on your door to look at the availability, team them up with Nathan MacKinnon. Right now, you're sitting 6 points out of a playoff spot, and you actually have played 2 more games, and the Red Wings will hold down that last wild card spot. Ottawa's got 1 more game in hand, and they hold down the second wild card. What are your hopes here? Are you looking at going into an off season again, hitting the gym at 37, 38 years old, doing those squats and doing what you need to do to prep for a season where maybe, just maybe, you might hang on to a playoff spot, which has not been the case the last few years. You've been declining. So really would like to see Sidney Crosby consider an actual move out of the Pittsburgh Penguins organization to finish his career. But in this game, because of the desperation, Pittsburgh does struggle to score goals, right? Their offense has not been as explosive as you may have thought when they had added Erik Karlsson. But what I'll say to this is that I think this game is going to at least go over 5.5. It's minus 120. And that this is out of pure desperation. The Capitals also score goals. And remember, they're looking for Ovi to get closer and closer to that Gretzky record. So take the over. Minus 120, 5.5. And by the way, DraftKings is the site that I'm using to supply these odds. So just a note on that. 5:40 puck drop. The New York Rangers taking on the Buffalo Sabres. The lonely, desperate, where am I going with my franchise, Buffalo Sabres. Really a mess there organization-wise. Unlike, Terry Pegula's Buffalo Bills, which seem to be, obviously, they won a Super Bowl ring, close to a Super Bowl, but they have a solid franchise that looks and appears to be run very well. But this is not the case on the hockey side. It is a gong show in Buffalo, and how many of these guys are thinking like Dylan Cousins that I will not be here in Buffalo? So, what's my future behold before the trade deadline? And you look at the New York Rangers. The Rangers are in shouting distance, 3 points off the Red Wings for that last playoff spot. And the expectation is that they're a playoff plus cup contender team. So you got to believe they're going to come out jumping in this one. I like the Rangers minus 115 at just straight up money line. I'm going to do this. I'm going to see Artemi Panarin, the bread man. He's been held pointless in a couple games before, the Four Nations break. But when I look at plus 205 for 2 points or more, and usually when you're in Buffalo, these games turn into a shit show, 5-2, 6-2, 6-3, goals all over the place. Why can't the bread man step up his game, dominate 4 points, 5 points, power play opportunities? He's going to get the chance. I like the value there that he steps up in his first game after the Four Nations. He had a big rest. He should be ready to go, and he needs to carry this team into a playoff spot. So it's up to him. Pressure's on, and he's going to deliver today in Buffalo. In Buffalo, well, I look at the bottom of the standings. They got 49 points. I mean, I guess they got hope that if they go on a ridiculous run, but is this team going to go on a ridiculous run? I can't see it. It's loss after loss. I mean, they had, actually the Sabres, lost going into the Four Nation. However, they had a 4-game winning streak prior, so they had something going, but I just think it stops today. It doesn't happen. Rangers come out and win. Panarin has a big day. We got the Kraken, the Seattle Kraken, taking on the Florida Panthers. Stanley Cup champion, Florida Panthers. Now, the Florida Panthers have a bunch of guys that are coming back from the Four Nations. Reinhart, the Kachuk, Barkov came back earlier with Team Finland. Bennett for Team Canada. Some of their core talent are coming back. I don't know how strong their legs will be. So this is a game where I do think the Four Nations will have an impact. And I'm trying to sneak one in here. I'm looking at this as a value play that the Seattle Kraken, and this is the only play on this game right now, will come into this game and will be the first team to have 5 shots on goal. I think the Kraken will have the better legs. The Panthers will be a little sluggish. Not to say the Panthers won't win this game, but I think the Kraken come out on fire. They put 5 pucks on net, and at plus 145, I think there's real value there just because of the spot, just because of the scenario that is the first game back in the Four Nations. So watch out, Seattle, first 3 shots on net. All right, Colorado, Nashville, 6:05 p.m., down in Nashville. Music City. What do we got here? Now, we also have core players for the Avalanche coming back from the Four Nations. However, I mean, from what I read, it looks like Makar, McKinnon, and Taves, defensemen for the Colorado Avalanche, are jumping in the lineup. Will be ready to go to play both back-to-back games they have this weekend. It kicks off in Nashville. And I think I like the idea here is that Colorado holds down the first playoff spot. Sorry, the first wild card spot, 68 points. Yes, they have an 8-point lead on Calgary. However, they have 2 games in hand. So it is absolutely critical that the Avalanche do not blink at all. So I believe it when I read it that Makar, McKinnon, and Taves are going to come out back, and they're going to be, I don't think they're going to lose any intensity. I think they'll be ready to play, ready to go. This is why I do like the Avalanche on the puck line, -1.5 at +185. Nashville's kind of a nothing team right now. They're not really doing much. Nashville right now, if you looked at the playoffs, they're kind of in the basement, 45 points. Really not going to sniff what's going on here, and really not really a contender. So I know the Colorado Avalanche, to me, have a sense of urgency. Nathan MacKinnon's a winner. That's why he was the MVP of the Four Nation tournament. He's a winner. So take the Avalanche puck line -1.5 +185. Also, I think there's value on points with Martin Necas, newest member of the Avalanche that came over in the Rantanen deal from Carolina. This kid's a stud. I think not enough respect was given to him that he is going to bring value. He is a difference maker. He is a multiple points per game player. He's going to be there on every power play. He's going to be there in every scoring opportunity. He's a guy you're putting on the ice to make things happen. And if you tell me he's got to get 2 points to get me +170 in my money, I'm going to take it. So take Martin Necas +170, 2 points minimum in this game. We move on to another game. Interesting matchup, 6 p.m. We have the Dallas Stars visiting the New Jersey Devils. The Devils right now don't have Jacob Markstrom in net. They have Jake Allen, veteran goaltender, knows his way around the NHL. Is he a superstar? No. Is he a solid goaltender? Yes. Dallas Stars have 7 of the last 10 games. Here's a stat. I don't like jumping these stats, but it stood out to me. 7 of the last 10 games, they've scored over 2.5 goals. I don't have a real solid reason why I do like this. I just have a feeling I do like the over in this game, 5.5 -115 on DraftKings. Take the over. I think there's going to be a few goals in here. Matt Duchene on the Stars came off hot before the Four Nations. There is going to be some goal scoring here. This looks to me like a 3-3/4-3 shootout or overtime victory for one of these teams. Now we move on to the Blackhawks and the Columbus Blue Jackets coming off their Four Nation break. And this is another one where I like the over. Let's look. Remember, I talked about the Buffalo Sabres and the New York Rangers, kind of a shit show. Well, the Blackhawks are like that as well. They're in wild games where there's goals galore, but they're giving up goals or scoring goals. And I look at 6.5 as a high total. But the Columbus Blue Jackets, I think, are going to win a 6-3 hockey game here, 6-4. But whatever the reason, both teams are going to come out scoring often, scoring big, and scoring early, and take the over 6.5. And with that, player prop, Connor Bedard, 3 shots on goal, -115. Yes, there's juice on it, but I got to believe at minimum 3 shots are in Connor Bedard's future here. Carolina visiting the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Austin Matthews for the Leafs, he's banged up, right? He's banged up. The whole talk about the Four Nations final was what Matthews going to play. I'm not going to miss this game. That tells me he's not 100% healthy. He probably hasn't been healthy all year. He's had time out of the lineup with a mysterious injury, having to go to Germany, which is ridiculous that we don't have any more insight to exactly what that was or what that is, especially when you have invested and you've embraced, as an NHL has, betting. That's kind of some of the flaws they still have, regardless of the success of the Four Nations tournament. So we have the Carolina Hurricanes visiting Toronto. I'm going to stick to the over again, -125, 5.5. There's no way they 5, this game's not a 4-2 game one way or another. So I'm going to take that. I also think usually on Hockey Night in Canada, some of the narratives around the NHL, like Mikko Rantanen, has he made a great impact for the Carolina Hurricanes? I think tonight he at least has 1 goal, and I like that at +180. He's just a player that's, he's a goal-scoring machine, and usually it's Toronto it's either players that have come back that are in the Toronto area that have a big night, or a story where somebody might be questioned or struggling that for some reason against the Leafs, they jump up and really highlight their value. And I think he may pop in too, but I like the one anytime. Like I said, +180. The Ducks, quack, 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 heading to Boston. Now, normally on face value, you look at this matchup and you say, the Ducks, these Quackers coming into Boston, you really think they have a chance? Well, yes, they do. The Anaheim Ducks were on a pretty good streak leading into the Four Nation. The Boston Bruins have been struggling Struggling. So here's my value play of the day when it comes to head-on-head matchup. Take the Anaheim Ducks, plus 164. They seem to be going. Right? They seem to have something going where the Boston Bruins keep taking a step back. They have a veteran player like Brad Marchand coming back into the lineup. He's no spring chicken anymore. He played well. He played well in the Four Nations, no question about it, but he had a role. He was a bottom six forward for the most part in that tournament. He is not Brad Marchand of the old. I would take him any day on my team. If I was a Leafs and had an opportunity, which will never happen, I would absolutely take him, no question. But for where this team is, looking out from the outside to a playoff position, I really think this team's running out of gas. I don't know. I wouldn't have said this 2 months ago if this team has what it takes to jump back in. Yes, they're only a point out. So, I mean, I take this for what it is. I just don't think they have the juice as the Boston Bruins once did. And you add Charlie McAvoy, I don't see him playing tonight after missing the championship game on Thursday. And that is a huge, absolutely huge blow to the Boston Bruins trying to stay in this playoff fight. So take the Ducks on a 3-game win streak in Boston to pull out a surprise victory. Now, an all-Canadian match with the Montreal Canadiens head into Ottawa to take on Brady Tkachuk and the Ottawa Senators. Now, I don't know about you. Is anybody out there envision that within the next 2 to 3 years that Brady Tkachuk won't be somewhere else? He cannot stay. I hate to say this, sorry folks, country's capital, but this guy is a breakout player, a difference maker, and I just don't see Ottawa being home to that kind of a player and building around him appropriately. And I do think he should be a second fiddle player, the second guy to an elite centerman. And many teams would, like his brother, probably really be Stanley Cup contenders if they added a Brady Tkachuk. But he's in Ottawa now. Enjoy it while it can. And the Montreal Canadiens absolutely suck. Sorry to say that, Habs fans. Not really. I could care less. Can you think of a jersey, 2 jerseys in the NHL that I would never wear? That'd be the Ottawa Senators and the Montreal Canadiens. Also the Bruins. I can never do that. But Ottawa, struggled a little bit on the road heading into the Four Nations. They had the Florida swing where they lost twice in Tampa and got blown out by the Florida Panthers. However, that was a tough road trip, right? Tough road trip. Well, the Montreal Canadiens have lost 8 of the last 10. They have kind of fallen off a cliff, right? Can't score goals. They're getting pasted. It's just they're not going to go anywhere. They had a nice start to the season, but this season is over, Montreal. So forget about it, and that's why I like the Ottawa Senators on the puck line here. Plus win 64 to win by 2 or more. And there's the value there for that. All right, moving on. We got a few more games to look at. The Minnesota Wild. No, that's not it. It's 12:30. Maybe I should turn the page where the other information is. So, a couple more games to look at, and a lot of this is a love over, so be careful on that. Jets and Blues. Here's a weird one. It's weird because the fact that Jets are the best team in the NHL right now. Points-wise, probably talent-wise. Best goaltender in the NHL, Connor Hellebuyck. Maybe at least the regular season. I know there's some questions now about when it comes to a big game, playoffs, is he the guy? Well, we don't care because we're talking about regular season right now. However, it looks like Eric Comrie is going to start for the Jets in net. No Connor Hellebuyck. But, they're taking on a St. Louis Blues. It's very, to me, bland. What are the St. Louis Blues? Are you gunning to buy a ticket to watch the St. Louis Blues come to town? There's nothing there that's appealing about this team. The Jets, I think, are run well, will play well, even though without Morrissey in the lineup, they're defenseman, all-star defenseman. I think there is another big value play. The Jets to win by 2 or more, the puck line, plus 205. Yes, you're right. Connor Hellebuyck is not playing. That is a huge difference. But for some reason, I see the value. St. Louis is nothing special. And they're already talking about, trading Braden Shen away, which, longtime St. Louis Blues, Stanley Cup champion Blue. And they're, 8 points out of a playoff spot right now. I think they are throwing in the towel. I don't see it. The Jets, on the other hand, have 81 points. They are tearing up. the standings here. It's insane. They're 1 point ahead of the Washington Capitals. But let's see, Washington games they play 55. Actually, they have Washington as a game in hand, so they might potentially go ahead at some point in the next couple days to take the number 1 spot in the NHL, which is very surprising. But take the Jets, despite having their backup Comrie in, to win by the puck line 2 goals or more. Utah Hockey Club goes in the LA Staples Center or Crypto.com to take on the Kings. Utah's been scoring goals. I mean, they had a big matchup against Washington Super Bowl Sunday, scoring goals, and I think they're starting to hum. And the Kings come off a 2-1 loss to the Anaheim Ducks, leading into the Four Nation. But I've marked this down as an over. Again, this is more of a feel. This is more of a thought. So I think this will at least squeeze over to 6 goals or more. So that's all I'll say about that. Vancouver, Vegas. Right now, I'm going again. That's why it's called the overrated experience, because I tend to think I like games going over, and that may be a flaw, but that's just the way it is. And maybe it's more for entertainment value, but that's why you're here, to hear my voice and hear the entertainment. So Vegas and the Canucks in Vegas. I also like over 5.5 at plus money. So even money, I take it. And that's the matchup. I'm not going to go into Sunday's matchups. I'm going to stick to Saturday. I know you might be listening to this after the fact. Take a listen. I'm going to try to do more hockey and maybe separate some of the sports. I don't know how I'll take this, but I'll do whatever I need to do. But anyway, I hope your Saturday is fantastic. You have your spring training action. Baseball is just getting going, guys. Do your research. Get your futures ready to go. Put them in. Team totals. Really know who's moved where. Pitching matchups. Get your X ready. Following the guys you want for the baseball beat. You have your NBA action still going live. A lot of good stuff there. NCAA tournament, March Madness is fast approaching. So make sure really to keep an eye on, again, following some folks that know their basketball and really get it going. And the conference championships really shed a light on some of those teams that may make a run in that tournament. The Masters in April is also on the horizon. So that's also a great event we'll be talking about as well. But in the meantime, enjoy your NHL action. Come back to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. The pleasure's all been yours. We're over and we're out.